Hi, I'd like to welcome you to our classroom here at Jeff Newman College. This is a first in a series of tapes that we're going to make just on the basics and the fundamentals and the technique for pedal steel guitar. It's something you need to see firsthand, and it's something that's not going to be easy to learn even looking at this tape and seeing it done firsthand. It's something you have to teach yourself. All I can do with this tape is really give you an idea of how it's done and how the overall average of technique is. There's a lot of different ones, of course, and there's a lot of different players that use different technique. What I'd like to show you with this tape is a little bit of the right-hand technique that is about the average that will work for you if you want to use it. If you want to change it a little bit here and there, that'd be fine too, as long as you find something that works for you. That's the main thing. We're going to do a little bit of close-up on a right-hand technique and explain it. We're going to go to the left-hand technique, which involves how to hold the bar, how to use the vibrato. Some of the most important things about steel guitar playing are obviously these right-hand and left-hand techniques. And the reason we are stressing these more than anything is that you can learn a lot of fancy licks, you can learn a lot of fancy scales and speed-picking scales and melodies and so forth. But none of those things are going to do you any good if you don't have the technique that will let you execute these scales and so forth. The main thing to know about these is that's where your tone comes from. That's where the appeal of steel guitar comes from. It's not necessarily what you play, but the way you play it. So we're going to work a lot on the right-hand technique here, and I'm going to give you several ideas of how you can practice your right-hand technique, how you can practice your left-hand technique, and then we're going to move on down to the left foot and show you a lot about ways of squeezing the pedals to get the good steel guitar sound. And most importantly, we're going to move right on to the right foot, which involves the volume pedal end of this thing, which is very rarely explained by anyone. I will say most people overuse it grossly, and that's probably where a lot of the amateur steel guitar sounds are imitated by a lot of guitar players for some reason. So what we want to do is straighten out all these techniques and get you into a proper playing style if we can. And like I say, you're the one that has to teach yourself this. So take each little part and practice it along with the tape if you want to, whatever. But the main thing is you're the one that has to be the policing agent for the way you play it. I can only show you how to do it. You're the one that has to stop and say, wait a minute, my hand doesn't look like that, or my left hand isn't rolling like that. And you have to take your time. And I will kind of warn you ahead of time. These things are not learned overnight, and they're not learned really in 2 weeks. They're learned over a period of months and sometimes years. And if you're a player who is already of some proficiency and you have some bad habits, I'm afraid you're going to find it harder to unlearn the old habits and come around to a new one, and you won't like it. It's going to take you more time to get rid of the old habit and get yourself into the new one and relearn the new one. So if you get a little frustrated, that's absolutely natural. And if you feel like you're getting nowhere, that's natural too. A lot of people feel like they're just going to lose all the technique they've got, and all of a sudden it comes to you. You just have to stay with it. The techniques I'm showing you are proper and they are correct, and they have worked for years for a lot of guys. And the learning process is never going to be easy, and it's not going to be an overnight huge success for you. But in the end, you're going to have a nice style, and you're going to be able to play with some tone and some dexterity, some speed, and every note you play will mean something. And hopefully, when you get all these techniques together, you'll find that learning pedal steel is much easier than you thought, and having it sound like a professional is much easier than you thought. You have to start here. I don't care whether you're a pro or whether you're brand new. This is where it all begins, and this is where the work is. After you get this much of it, it's very, very easy after that part. So we'll start here, and we'll go to the right hand, and we'll do a little bit of close-up work here, and this is where we get down to business. All right, we're going to start with the right-hand technique here, and most importantly, we're going to start with the picks and where you wear them. And most people, I'm afraid, especially when they come to school, or if you put the picks on in a natural manner, you'll put them on too far back up on your fingers, and this creates a bad technique. So what we want to do, first of all, if you'll notice that the pick is well out on the very end of the finger, and what I try to do is set everybody's picks where they come only to the back of the fingernail. I'm afraid you can't use a Dunlop pick for this, by the way. You need to use either a National pick or a pick that doesn't have a wide flare on the very top. The Dunlop picks are comfortable, that's true, but you can't put them on this far out on your finger to where they'll stay out on the end. Notice that they're far enough out that the blade part is well above the fingernail there. If you wear them farther back up on your finger where it's more comfortable, I must admit, you won't have any of that blade sitting out off the end of your finger there. When you get into the proper right hand position, you're going to find that your fingers are going to be upside down and they're going to be coming down into the strings there. If you've got the finger pick too far back up on your finger, you'll find out that your finger has to go down in between the strings, and you won't like that feeling, and you won't get any speed out of it that way either. So if you can, go ahead and bend your picks down. Take a pair of pliers, a pair of needle nose pliers will be fine, and bend them down so they're the shape of your finger. Make them comfortable. Make them fit like a pair of shoes. And if you have to angle them a little bit and work with them, you want them to fit like a pair of false teeth. They should be comfortable. You're going to wear them a long time. So don't stand for them hurting there. Move them out on the end, but make them just the shape of your finger. Get them to where they hit just to the back of your fingernail and no farther back than that. And yes, it feels a little odd, but get used to that feeling too. The main thing is you see how there's a lot of blades sticking out off of the end, and that's what we're after there. Don't wear them straight out. Go ahead and get a nice curve in it there. You can see both of those picks have a lot of curve up off of the end there. You're going to need that too. They shouldn't be straight up nor straight out, just with a nice little out sweep on them like that. As far as where you wear the thumb pick, it really doesn't matter. Somewhere, from the knuckle out would be fine, and almost any length will do and any style. There's nothing important about the thumb pick. It's just a thumb pick for that matter. It should be plastic, I'll say, though. A metal thumb pick is not as good a tone as the plastic is. Okay, get your picks shaped and make sure you're comfortable with them. That's the main thing. And we'll get into the right hand position. What we want to do is make sure that you have the hand well forward. What we're trying to get here is a muting technique and a picking technique that would allow you some speed and some tone and so forth. What you're looking at is the little crease line that really comes between your first and second finger, and it comes down off the edge of your hand. That's your reference point. If you play with this hand farther back to the left, you're going to find out that you can't mute out here off of this finger. And that's what we're trying to do, is learn to play where we use the meat that's down here behind this crease line. That's where everything is muted. So when we pick a note, we're going to have the hand well forward, and I've got the crease line right up there on the first string for a definite reason. We're going to bring it back in a little bit, but for right now I'm going to show you an exercise that will get you into this position. Now, if we put the crease line hard down on the strings, and that we're talking about on the first string right now as a reference point, put the crease line right there and just nail it right there. What we're trying to do is keep the hand as vertical as we can. It's almost straight up here. And we're going to bring the second finger in a curl down to that first string. Now, we don't want to pick the hand up or flatten it out. Too many people try to play with their hand out flat. That's what we call the old eagle claw effect. You can't play this way. They try to play with their hand out flat, and they try to play with their fingers all bent like that. If you have that technique, you want to get rid of that one. That'll get you in big trouble. It's not played with the ends of the picks. You don't try to play off the end of the blade. We're trying to play right off of that edge of that pick. So with that crease line right on the first string, keep the hand vertical and come in at a sideways angle. So we're actually coming at a nice 45-degree angle down off of that second finger. So with that hand down, see if you can just pick that note where you get a nice little spit out of it. You don't want it to ring or anything. You want that crease line to be muting the first string, and you want to pick that note with the second finger now. Notice what happens here. I'm picking with my finger, but my hand is not moving. This seems to be the hardest part of what you're trying to learn. Most people want to use that finger like a claw, and they'll pick it, and their hand will go backward like that. We're not looking for the hand to move. We want the hand to be dead still. This is your base. Noticeably, the first knuckle right up here on the very top stays dead still, and you learn to pick that note with the second finger, and you're actually just bending from the second knuckle or the middle one, and this top big knuckle is dead still, just like that. See if you can get that where you're not in too much of a bind, where you're actually in a terrible tense situation. In the same respect, see if you can reach up and hit the thumb on that first string exactly the same way, not moving the hand, just moving the thumb, and actually the thumb is rotating from the knuckle of the thumb right there. This seems to be the most difficult thing I find to teach, because everybody wants to move their hand forward or move their hand like that when they're doing it. And we're not trying to move the hand at all. The trick is to play with your fingers like that. A good exercise to get into this thing is to get your hand as vertical as you can. It's almost straight up and down, by the way. The back of my hand is almost flat to the angle of my eye as I'm looking across the back of it. And I'm just moving back and forth, thumb and second finger, and getting that sound right there. A good practice might be to go 2 times with the finger, 2 times with the thumb. And watch that knuckle when you do it. So finger, finger, thumb, thumb, finger, finger, thumb, thumb. And try to get some speed in it. And really pick it hard. Don't do it real soft. Put some effort into it. You're building muscles here. And actually there is a muscular reaction that happens off your thumb there. These are things that you don't do normally in any other way. You have to learn to do these things. And a lot of people who start playing have never done anything like this, so they find this particularly difficult to do. But this practice right here will really get your arm burning and some of your muscles in there working hard. It'll be like lifting weights, and you won't like it too much. But this is where you have to start. Notice we're not using the first finger too much. We're not trying to build that up into this thing. That's more for chords than anything. But we're working on 2-finger picking here. So work with your little finger out, by the way. Don't curl it in too much. Keep it pretty much straight out. You're going to have to learn to have it out a little bit anyway. So start with this, getting that muting effect. Now to actually learn to mute this thing, you want to learn to pick the note and raise the total hand completely after you pick it. So you're going to pick the note and raise, and let the finger bend and drop back down on the string. And that's where that little muting happens, back inside there where that crease line is. So you pick the note, bend your finger, come up, and drop back down. Now if you come back down and you touch the pick to the live string, you get that little shink sound. That's a terrible technique right there. You don't want to come back with the thumb the same way either. You get a shink, shink. That's Chinese music right there. We want to avoid that at all costs. So what we're trying to do is develop some coordination. You want to pick the note and not rotate the hand. You don't want to go over like this and do it. You want to come straight up and leave the complete guitar there. Don't try to nail your hand at the back and rotate from the wrist. It all comes up from your elbow. And the same with the thumb. Maybe like a finger, finger, thumb, thumb, and back and forth. The natural thing will be for your hand to start working its way toward the rear, because most people like to play more out like that. You'll have to learn to go into this nice little curl. And in actuality, what you're trying to do is snap your fingers. That's the effect of play, and it's just like snapping your fingers. Your fingers are passing each other. You're bending from that knuckle out there, and you're bending from the knuckle of the thumb as well. Maybe up and down and get some speed going on it. Notice I'm not rolling. I'm not trying to get that effect. It's all dead still. Starting with that exercise is a good one because you can actually just nail it in one spot, and maybe doing that 30 minutes or a minute at the most. You'll get bored with it and nothing flat, and I wouldn't do it for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You'll just wear yourself out. After you get that, move on down, and let's practice something that's more practical as we come on down to the 3rd and 5th string, let's say. Those are the natural strings you might play as a chord or whatever. Notice what's going to happen here as well. I'm going to spread my fingers, and this is why we put those picks out on the end there. Spread the fingers out, and I'm going to move the thumb down the fretboard a bit, and the second finger, the thumb and the second finger are going to pass behind each other. The thumb in front, the finger in back, and when we pick the note, they're going to pass, but I'm still going to drop my hand. Notice the crease line is going to move down to the 3rd string. It follows the action. If I come on down the strings, if I came lower, the hand shape would never change. I'd come on back with it a little bit too, and I'd drop it all, and it would basically be the same feeling to me whether I was out on the 1st string or back here on the 3rd and 5th. Notice also where my hand is hitting the strings in relation to the pickup. I'm not way back here over the end of the guitar, and I'm not over here over the pickup. If I play back here on the pickup, I get a funky little sound. It has no tone. It's all middle resonance for some reason. And the farther back you get, it gets worse. So what you want to do is stay in front of that pickup. That's where the tone of your guitar is. Now you can move farther down, but it won't help you as far as tone goes. Just getting a little bit right along the edge of that pickup is fine. A lot of people have bought new guitars and new amplifiers and everything else looking for the tone that you get simply by putting your hand in the right position, and that's what we're talking about here. We're trying to keep the hand very high and this finger coming in at a real good angle. It's like 45 degrees, and the thumb well down. Just practicing playing the 3rd and 5th string, maybe with the crease line again, right on the 3rd string. Just put it there and maybe just snap the fingers like this. You will find this more difficult, by the way, because when you were out here on the 1st string, you could kind of flail around a bit, and that was not so hard. When you get down here around the 3rd and 5th strings, you'll find out you're captured by the other strings on either side. So, practice with your hand down first. Then practice squeezing, raising the whole hand and dropping. But practice also keeping the hand still. You don't want to get this rotation going. That's kind of a natural thing. That's why I'm cautioning you against it. Straight up and down when you pick. The hand is the base. The fingers move from the hand. We'll be playing 3 and 5, 4 and 6, so we'll move down just a hair. We'll even be playing the 5th and 6th strings at time. Notice I'm playing 2 strings right next to each other, like the 5th string and the 6th string. I'm not coming in with both fingers. They sound different. I'm going to play the thumb and the 2nd finger because the tone is better, and it keeps you in this position a little bit better. Notice something else. When you analyze this whole position, this whole right hand is sort of like a pyramid. The angle from the thumb and the 1st finger is a good 45. The angle of the back is about a 45, and the angle off the front is about a 45, and the angle coming back towards your arm can't be 45, but it's still, this is a pyramid, it's a peak, and the 1st knuckle is the center point of the whole thing, and it's the thing that never moves. If you were going to play fast, you'd never move that. If you play slow, it still stays in the same spot. So the trick, I suppose, is to watch the 1st knuckle while you're doing all this. So the whole thing can be done with a lot of degree of excellence and not playing too hard and not getting too tense either. So work on the 1st string first, maybe coming on back here to the 3rd and 5th and work on those. Get a nice even sound out of that 3rd and 5th string. And the 4th and 6th. All right, let's move on to the left hand. All right, the left hand gives your guitar the breath and the tone and the overall sound of pedal steel. People pay too much attention to the strings that are being played and so forth, and very little attention is paid to the actual sound of the vibrato and the intonation of the bar. What you have to remember about the left hand is that it's doing 2 most important things. First of all, yes, it's giving you the right chord, and everybody knows that. You're going to get the right notes by putting the bar on the right fret. In speaking about that, however, the frets are not real. We have to understand they're painted down there. Many new students, especially in my classrooms, I notice that people trust the frets, and you can't trust them. You'll find out that if you put the bar down on the 5th fret and you just play a note there, many times if you're just playing all by yourself, that'll sound all right. But as you start playing along with a band or along with a rhythm track, you'll find out that if you play what appears to be an A chord on the 5th fret, and you have the bar exactly right over that 5th fret, and you can see the fret and you say, well, that's got to be A. Sometimes that'll be flat or a little sour, a little low, or sometimes it could be a little sharp or a little high. And you find that that fret sometimes lies to you. So what you have to do is you play the left hand by ear, and you use the fret as a reference point. All it's saying is it's around here somewhere, but all you do is find A somewhere close here, and then your ear tells you the rest. So when you play with the left hand, remember you're playing by sight only to get in the right spot momentarily, and then you're playing by ear from then on. The other thing is that the left hand is giving you the vibrato. And the vibrato is what gives your guitar the life or the breath or the personality that you have. Everybody has a different personality in their left hand as far as the frequency that the vibrato goes at, the depth, we're saying, of how far the bar goes from left to right over a note. If you play a note, for instance, and we're playing an A note right now, we're saying an A chord on the 5th fret with no pedals, and I'm just going to play the 3rd and the 5th string. If I play those notes dead still, no movement in the bar whatsoever, what you'll get is an A chord, but it might be in tune and it might not be in tune. On the other hand, it sounds very dead and very amateur sounding. That note has no life, and I have to give it life by start moving the bar left and right. Now there's a lot of ways to move that bar left and right. I can move it very quickly, which is what we call the old Kitty Wells twitter, I suppose. That's much the old style of the old Hawaiian players, and a lot of amateur players get that little twitter going because they're doing the vibrato with just the tips of their fingers, or really only their fingers. They're going from the big knuckle of the first and second finger out, and they're trying to just wiggle the bar or roll the bar, whatever. I don't know what they're trying to do there, but it comes out that nice little twitter. That's too fast, and that doesn't have a pleasing effect, we'll say. What we're trying to do with vibrato is get a nice, easy flowing, loose effect, left and right. Notice how far the bar is moving. Notice that the bar is just flopping around down there. I'm not trying to get the whole bar to move left and right. I'm not trying to slide the whole bar left and right. I'm not even trying to hold the back of the bar back there. I'm trying to hold just the nose of the bar with my first finger and my second finger. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a little pressure right in there, right on the tip of that bar, and I'm just trapping the bar on the back. I am trapping the bar once in a while with my thumb, but I don't really need to do that. I can turn it loose. And as I move my whole hand left and right, from the wrist, I can get a nice vibrato, just letting the bar flop around. Now I'm playing the third and fifth string. Now if I came down the strings and played the fourth and sixth, I'd pull the bar back and still use just the nose of the bar over the fourth and sixth string. I don't have the bar out in the middle trying to do that. If I did that, I'd get some rattles there. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the nose of the bar on the action, wherever I'm playing, whatever string I'm playing, I pull the bar back to that. So when I play the third and fifth, I've got the nose of the bar right over the third and fifth. When I come to the fourth and sixth strings, I pull the bar back to the fourth and sixth. When I come down the strings, for instance, like to the fifth and sixth string, pull it back to there. When I come down to the maybe sixth and 10th is a favorite position, I pull it back to there. So at no time am I really playing on the rear end of the bar back here, so I don't need to hold down the rear. I'm concentrating on just keeping the front half of the bar going. That's where the tone of my guitar is, by the way, off the nose of that bar. Notice I've rolled my hand to the left. I'm not trying to hold it out flat. That would be extremely difficult to hold my hand flat and get vibrato. So I've got my hand up in a nice little arch, and I've got my fingers arched. There's a nice little peak, sort of like when we talked about the right hand. I've got a nice little peak going there on the left hand too. I've spread my fingers out. Notice when I spread the fingers out here on the back, I've got my little finger planted. We've noticed in teaching this, to tell people to plant that little finger there, good and hard, helps. The ring finger needs to be planted. And then you move the hand left and right from there, back and forth, but those fingers never move. They stay in about the same spot there. So the idea is to move the hand, let the bar float or flop, however you want to think of it, left and right, and keep that little finger back there well planted. Keep the ring finger well planted, and learn to pivot right from that ring finger knuckle, and everything floats from there. So when we play vibrato, we roll the hand good to the left. It's like the right hand was. It's more a 45-degree angle than it is out flat. It's well over, and I'm actually just shoving this bar left and right with that second finger there, or the big finger, and I'm just trapping the bar a little bit. If you'll turn loose with your thumb, you'll probably have better success at getting this sound. A nice little practice for this is to remember that anytime you're playing a note, first, anytime a note is coming out of your guitar, you need vibrato because you're trying to get this in tune. You'll notice that as you go to the right of a note, it's a little sharp. If you go to the left of it, it's a little flat. You're trying to give your ear a choice. And that's why we need vibrato, to play in tune, because the frets lie and because there are overtones above and below. You want to give your ear a choice of notes. So by going left and right and by going at a nice even little frequency, you're giving your ear that choice, and it'll pick out the right note. It will sort of disregard the fact that there's a note that's too high and there's one that's too low. it'll catch the one that's in the middle. That's just exactly where you want it. So we can play along with the little rhythm track. That's just in A. This is track number 1. And we'll play just the 3rd and the 5th string, and then the 4th and the 6th string, and then the 5th and 6th, and maybe 5 and 8 is a good one too. And then maybe 6 and 10. Pulling the bar in and out as we go, and remember not to forget, the vibrato must be on every note. So we can take the little rhythm track, number 1,
2, 3,
and we'll start on 3rd and
4.
5th string. Every 4 beats, pick it again, and pick it again, and back to 4 and 6, and back to 3 and 5. A nice even vibrato. Turn it loose. Notice the whole hand is moving here, not just my fingers. The bar is wiggling a little bit, and it's sliding a little bit. The back end is just flopping around. Moving the bar down with the notes when I play low, moving out as I come to the higher ones. Every time I play a note, I put the vibrato on it. It's the same frequency all the time. Fingers spread out behind the bar. Notice the fingers aren't up. Little finger and the ring finger is down. And they're both planted hard against the string. I don't pick them up. I'd get a funny little overtone sound when I do that. So, keeping the fingers down behind the bar will help get rid of overtones. It'll help you get a better vibrato because it gives you something to gauge by. Those are your base that you gauge it by. Vibrato is something that grows on you. You don't pick it up the first day. You have to hear this sound in your head. If you go too fast, you want to get rid of that one. And if you're an old-time player who picked that up years ago, or if you're a new player that started that way and that's sort of an automatic thing to you, that's something you want to work hard at getting rid of first. Maybe, you know, work on just playing just no vibrato at all first. Get control of your left hand. Dead still for a little bit, even though it's a little obnoxious and then even though it's a little out of tune. That's fine. Learn to control that bar first. Remember, we need a nice wide vibrato. It needs to be nice and slow, about that fast. Slower than that will sound a little bit like a record going bad or a turntable going bad. So, a nice frequency, not too slow, not too fast. Avoid doing it with your fingers. Do it with your hand and you'll take care of a lot of problems right there. Spread the fingers, roll the hand to the left. Stay relaxed. If you work too hard at this, you're not going to enjoy it near as much. You'll get cramps in your hands. And this is really not a hard job. It's very easy to do when you do it the right way. It's just a matter of moving the hand, and that's what you want to concentrate on. Most guitars are set up where the pedal that pulls the 5th and the 10th string up is the first pedal on the outside there. That's what we call the A pedal. And the B pedal is the one we refer to as the second pedal down there. It pulls the 3rd string and the 6th. So the A and B pedals together is what gives you the E to A change, like the open. So there are several ways we can use these pedals. One will give you the right notes, I suppose, but they don't give you that strong pedal steel sound that everybody likes to hear. If you hit an A chord, let's say open, there you can just hit the chord with both pedals down. I'm hitting strings 3, 4, and 5 right now. That gives you a good A chord, but that doesn't give you the real pedal steel sound that you're looking for. The technique we're trying to learn here is that you don't have to have both pedals down to start with. You can have just the B pedal in, so roll your foot just a little bit to the right there, and then pick the notes and squeeze them in. The A pedal being the one you're trying to squeeze nearly every time. So I could pick strings 3 and 5. I could pick strings 4 and 5, and 5 and 6, and maybe even 5 and 8. And the normal pull is having the B pedal in and then squeezing the A in. Now if you do it too quick, you lose some of that soul sound that we're looking for, especially in ballad work. If I go up to the 12th fret, you need to practice your pulls and your squeezes. The 12th fret with both pedals down gives you an A chord, maybe on the 3rd and 5th string here. You need to work at picking the 3rd and 5th string and keeping your vibrato in, but squeezing that A pedal in too. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can just squeeze it in, or you can have it in and let it off a little bit, and then squeeze it back in too. We use both of these effects quite a lot, especially in melody work and fills and so forth. Picking maybe the 4th and 5th string the same way, or just squeezing in the A pedal on 4 and 5. There's nothing wrong with having the wrong note there first and then squeezing into the right one. And that's the squeeze you're looking for. You might have a guitar that is set up backwards to this. Guitars come both ways, and neither way we can say is exactly right. The Emmons setup, we call it, is the one that rocks the A and B pedal from the first 2 pedals on the outside. The Day setup is also very common, and a lot of people use it, where you use the 2nd and the 3rd pedals. You will have to know which way your guitar is set up, that's all. In this case, the 3rd pedal would be the A pedal, and then the B pedal still is the 2nd one. So you might rock from the outside in. That's the Day setup right there. The trick is to learn to angle your foot so you can get to either pedal, however your setup might be. Whichever is not a big problem, whichever way you have, learn to play that way. Don't go changing it around. There's no better way and there's no wrong way, and neither one is exactly right. That's just the way it is. But most guitars from the factory will be set up. The A pedal is the 1st, the B pedal is the 2nd, and what we call the C pedal would be the 3rd. I've retuned my guitar so I can play it either way here for demonstration purposes. So if you have the Day set up, you'll be rocking this way. Whatever you do, you're trying to learn to squeeze those pedals and roll that bar all at the same time. Just to squeeze the pedals and not roll the bar gives you that dead note again. So we want to keep the bar rolling and squeeze. Along with our little rhythm track we used before, the #1 rhythm track, we can go up to the 12th fret and do some little practice exercises that let you get the feel of this. All we're going to do is play a note every 4 beats, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So just hold them 4 beats at a time and get used to squeezing that nice long A pedal in there. And practice rolling that bar at the same time. So along with the rhythm track, here's what you'll get.
2, 3.
Just on 12. Again, just the A pedal. Now what we might want to do here is practice both the squeezes, the vibrato, and we're going to pick different strings, like maybe the 3rd and 5th string. We'll pick the 4th and 5th, the 5th and 6th, and maybe the 5th and the 8th even. And we'll go in and out of all those along with a rhythm track, using the squeeze.
1, 2,
only on the A pedal.
4.
3 and 5, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, 5 and 8, back up to 3 and 5, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, and 5 and 8. So that'll give you a nice little practice exercise. You can run up and down on those like that. Rarely will you squeeze in the B pedal this way. It is done, but it's not as common as the A pedal. So you need to get used to that rocking effect back and forth. And there's nothing wrong with coming off of the note and then squeezing it back in. And we'll get into a little exercise here a little later where we'll do both of those things like that. So remember, the squeeze is necessary, and it needs to become pretty much automatic reaction to you, the same as with the vibrato. You can't forget to use the vibrato and the squeezes at the same time. And this is where it gets to be sort of like an athletic sport. You're learning some coordinated exercises here that you can't think about. What we're trying to do is do something with your left foot and something with your left hand, and neither one of them have anything to do with each other. They're both different operations. That's why it takes some time to do all this, I suppose. And you'll find this is where you don't have it for a long time, and all of a sudden it comes to you and you can do it, and you can't understand why I couldn't do it 5 minutes ago, but now I can. It's just coordination that you're starting to develop, and you can't give up. This is where it gets a little tougher, because you're trying to squeeze and roll and pick the right strings at the same time, and then trying to play in tune and trying to pick the right notes too. So if you feel a little frustrated along about now, join the club. I was that way for about 25 years. The right foot's going to give you a lot of problems and a lot of grief if you don't learn to use it properly. It, of course, controls the volume pedal, and if you're already a player of some proficiency and you misuse it, it's destroying whatever technique that you've developed so far. Most people overuse the volume pedal, especially I've noticed in my students. Somewhere way back in the history of time, somebody must have written that you cut each note off. In other words, they say, I suppose somebody wrote that to play any note, you cut the volume pedal all the way back, you pick the note, and then squeeze it in. Wherein if you do that, it'll sound like this. If I was to play a little melody and try to cut off every note and then squeeze the volume pedal in, it would sound like this. Now, I don't know any music that sounds like that, and I don't know any steel guitar players who are any good that sound like that. That's a very amateurish sound, and I'm afraid that's the sound that guitar players use. They'll buy themselves a volume pedal and get on a guitar, and they'll make that sound on guitar, and they say that's imitating a steel guitar, and that's not like any steel guitar I ever heard. And I never saw that written where we want to do that. I think we use the volume pedal for two things. One is that we have in our minds that maybe the volume pedal will create some sustain for us. In reality, the volume pedal is not going to create any sustain for you. Especially if you use it correctly, it cannot possibly create sustain. First of all, most people play with their amplifier set too high, with way too much volume on it. What this creates is a tremendous change in volume with a very little bit of movement on the volume pedal. What you should do is turn your amplifier down to a reasonable, acceptable listening volume with your volume pedal wide open. And it feels very odd if you've been the kind that likes to play on the back side of your volume pedal. A lot of people turn their amps way up and they play way back down here, and then if they ever open their volume pedal all the way up, it would blow the walls down or cut the guitar player in two, or with a little luck it'll cut the steel player in two, and he can die and go away for a few years. What we want to do is be kind to that guitar player, and be kind to that amplifier, and be kind to yourself. Turn the amplifier down to where you are going to play at the volume that comes out with the volume pedal wide open. So with it all the way down, you want to be able to play right there. Notice when you play the notes, I'm not trying to come all the way back off the volume pedal. There's no time when I'll ever cut my volume pedal all the way off. I will come back maybe halfway or a third of the way back. You'll notice also that if you turn your amplifier down, you can move the volume pedal from wide open to about halfway back, and you hear very little change in the volume, where if your amplifier is very loud, the slightest little movement on that volume pedal changes a tremendous amount of volume. So you want to get rid of that effect. That'll get rid of a lot of that pumping effect. So the right way for the volume pedal to be used is not to create sustain, it's to create mood. And that's what we're using it for. We're trying to take some of the harshness off of every note. If I didn't use my volume pedal, I might play a melody and it would sound like this. Well, that's not too bad, except it doesn't have much soul to it, and the volume pedal will give you a little bit of that soul. So the proper way is, yes, we're going to use the volume pedal, but we have to use it exactly the right way. As we pick each note, we do want to come back off the volume, but we come back quickly, about halfway or maybe a third of the way. So when you play the note, you're back, but you can still hear the picks, and there's nothing wrong with hearing those picks. If you have the kind of technique on the right hand that's kind of clattery and jittery, you'll not cover it up by turning the volume pedal all the way off. That's something you're just going to have to get used to. Your technique is bad, you need to change the technique, not cover it up with a volume pedal. So pull your volume pedal back about halfway, maybe a third of the way, but you want to still hear the note when you pick it. And then gradually come in with that volume pedal. Now you don't want to come in too quickly. You'll hear it jump. So the trick is to learn it from halfway and then gradually bring it in. Pick it again. That's the proper way. All the notes are running together. But I'm not cutting them off. If I cut them off, it would sound like this. And they wouldn't run together, and that's what music does. It runs each note together. There's not a big space in between each one of them. So what we're trying to do is learn a little technique control on the volume pedal. Now, if you're the kind of player that does pump it, and you know whether you are or not, and you can record yourself to find that out. If you hear yourself going, nah, go shoot yourself. You don't want to be a player like that. What you want to do is maybe put a little block underneath the back side of your volume pedal, maybe a little 9-volt battery, a piece of wood, anything that'll hinder you from coming all the way back off your volume pedal. You want to block it where maybe it'll come back just halfway. Now, if you put that block back there and you find out that you hit that block every time you pick a note, you know you're trying to cut it off, and you don't want to do that. You might practice, even though it might hurt your ears a little bit. Go ahead and turn your amplifier down so it won't at least kill you. Practice playing whatever little exercises you can. You know, just playing up on 12 with both pedals down. Just playing 3 and 5 with the volume pedal right wide open. Maybe 4 and 5. 5 and 6. Maybe 5 and 8. Maybe playing along with a rhythm track, anything. Notice how much you want to pull that volume pedal off and play it on the back side, or you want to cover up some mistakes there with that thing. It'll tell you right fast because you won't like the feeling of leaving that volume pedal wide open. Now, I don't suggest you play like that forever. You do want to learn to come back off of it about halfway and squeeze it in. But you've got to get control down there at the same time too, and this is the way to do that. If you're a pumper, you've got to stop that. If you're the kind that just leaves it wide open, that's a better technique than the pumping technique, I must admit. You want to learn to use just the intermediate part. Now, this takes longer than you know. This is probably the hardest thing to teach. This is why I save it for last. Most of my students that I have here at school and the people I've had on seminars, most of them are the kind that pump it way too much. Most people turn it all the way off and try to squeeze it in. I don't know how we get that habit. I just know that it's there. It's something we must deal with. It's something you must deal with. So deal with it. Find out how loud you've got your amplifier set. Turn it down. Learn to play. Practice with it wide open. This technique must be learned or you'll never have that nice, soulful sound. Remember what you're trying to do. You're trying to whisper in, and you come in gradually. You come halfway back, and then gradually squeeze it in, just very subtly. You're trying to create the mood, that's all. Your guitar is going to sustain or it is not, so you can't sustain with it. But you can create mood, and you can certainly destroy great right-hand technique. You can destroy great left-hand technique. It can all go in the wind if you're pumping that volume pedal. So let's get rid of that first, and then really work on how you do this. If you don't learn this technique, probably what you're going to find is that whatever you've developed as far as the right hand goes, and whatever you've developed as far as the left hand goes, and the left foot and so forth, you can destroy all of that quickly by having the bad right foot. So it's something you must pay attention to. You're going to have to correct yourself. It might take a lot longer than you think, in fact. I have a lot of students that take a year to learn to do it. Some take 2 years to learn to do it. The point is, it takes time, and you've got to give yourself that time. And don't expect too much of yourself. The only thing you must know is that all these techniques come together, and they all come together in a song, and they come together as music. So whatever you do, wherever you fall down, if it's right-hand technique and you've got a bad hand position, you're going to notice that somewhere. If you've got a bad vibrato or you're playing out of tune and you're looking at the frets, You're going to notice that somewhere, and it's all going to come together, and it's going to tell on you somewhere. I'm afraid to say the volume pedal is the hardest to learn. It's the one you have to deal the most with, I'm sure. It takes the longest to learn, and it'll tell the most on you. And everything you've developed up to there is going to cost you the most when it comes down to that volume pedal. So be serious about that part, but also don't be too serious with yourself. It's going to take time, and don't expect this to happen overnight. It is going to take 5 years. So sort of set yourself in, grit your teeth, and be an old groundhog, and just sit there and wait for the sun to shine, because it will. We're going to work on both hands now and take a look at both hands together in a little coordination and maybe playing along with a track here. Before we start, though, I want to have you look at some obvious things that maybe you can learn from. We didn't cover in the right hand a while ago the fact that the right hand is above the strings most of the time and rarely is actually resting down on the strings. And the muting happens, and it happens so quickly that it's very difficult to catch if you don't know what's going on. What's going to happen is we are going to pick the notes, and we are going to mute them with the edge of the hand, but it happens as one operation and not as two. So as I'm playing along here, notice how the picks come in, the hand comes in, but it's not two operations. I'm not picking, muting, and then picking another note. They happen at pretty much simultaneous times. I'm going to be playing around with a little melody here, and I'm going to be playing around with some little chord positions. Notice that each note is picked. I'm letting my hand rest well above the strings. It's not resting on the back of the pickup or anything like that. It's always floating above. Notice that every note has vibrato on it. As I play through some little melody lines or maybe some little chord positions as well, every note is going to have the nice vibrato singing. Many of the students I've had in the past, as I watch them, they get busy, and as long as they're just playing a chord and I say, what's the vibrato, and get the vibrato on there, they can do that. It's when you get busy and you forget that gets you in trouble. So here's what it would sound like, by the way, if I didn't put it on there. Listen to the amateur sound you get right here. It has no life. It's not very interesting either, and it's probably going to sound out of tune like that, by the way. So as I play, notice that the vibrato is singing on every note. There's no time when I forget to get it there. The hand is coming up, and it's away from the strings most of the time, and probably you'll notice that the muting goes on, and even though you know it's happening there, it's very difficult to catch the fact that the palm is coming down and it is touching those notes. Otherwise, if it didn't, it might sound like this. You'd get all those little squealy things. So every time I change strings or change string groups, I'm going to have to mute the notes, but I'm going to do it so quickly that it's sort of like the hand is quicker than the eye. You can't tell what's going on there. This little rhythm track we're going to take right quick is nothing but the key of A, and it's the chord of A. And it's going to change chords. It's going to go from A to an E, and it's just going to go back and forth. This is a little practice exercise. We'll call this number 2, I suppose. And what we'll have is just an A chord on 5, and I'll be working off of an A chord up on 12 with both pedals down. I would not suggest playing an A down off the open fret position because you can't get any vibrato there, and most of the time you're out of tune a little bit, and you can't do anything about that. You can't cheat, as we said, with the bar. So I'll be playing A on 5 with no pedals, an A on 12 with both pedals down, and I'll be squeezing the pedals at the same time, so that's what you'll be hearing. And then it'll have a couple of measures of E every time. It'll go back and forth between A and E, and I'll be playing E on 12 with no pedals, and E, which is 5 frets below that, on 7 with both pedals down. This doesn't take a lot of musical knowledge, and you don't have to be a musical genius to play along with this. We're just playing A for a little bit, E for a little bit. It's actually 2 measures of both. Notice the technique, and that's all we're looking at here is the coordination between the two.
1, 2, 3.
Starts with A.
4, 1.
3 pickups there, and you start. And now here's the E chord. E on 7 with pedals. Maybe an A up on 12. And an E on 12, no pedals. little melody. Notice I've got vibrato on every note. I'm playing all my notes with the thumb and the second finger. A lot of action on the bar. It's a lot of vibrato left and right. I'm muting every note every time I change string. Let's put all this together in just one big ball of wax, and let's look at all the right hand, the left hand technique, and the floor down there with the left foot and the right foot. We'll put it in with the same little rhythm track. By the way, this rhythm track has 3 pickups on it, and the count is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then the band comes in with 3 pickup notes, like from an E chord back to an A. So let's do it all together, and we'll take some nice close-ups and tie it all together as one technique rather than 4 different ones. It comes out to be a little song, and I'll disregard a lot of the chord ideas. I'm just going to play around here, just playing some melodies and fooling around.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Notice how quick all the muting is done. All the notes in the right hand played with just the thumb and the second finger. Each note on the left hand has that vibrato on it. Have your foot in a position where you can roll both ways. Notice the right foot never comes all the way back. It's always wide open. Comes halfway back most of the time. It's quick back. Gentle squeeze in. All these things that you've just seen are automatic to me. They're all just reflex action, and you're going to have to practice enough to where they become that to you. And there's only one answer for that, and that's that you do it enough times that it becomes part of your reflexes. That comes in time, and that's the only way we can do it. I would offer a word of suggestion, I suppose, as far as practice goes. If you practice 2 or 3 hours at a time, I think you'll experience burnout, and 2 or 3 hours at the guitar is too much. Probably 30 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes at one simple thing there would be all you need to do. I think you do better with many different little sections of practice rather than one long one. If you could practice 15, 20 minutes in the day, maybe early, and then 15 or 20 minutes in the evening, that would do a lot better than 1 hour at a time. What you've just seen over the last 45 minutes or so has been more or less the way we teach here in class. We'd like to offer more of these tapes just like this, and we'll cover other subjects. What we'd say is we could do some backup work for a little bit. We'll do some introduction type work for a little bit, some chord progression work for a little bit, maybe some speed scales and some speed licks and techniques in such tapes as these. I might offer a word of warning here. If these tapes are misused and if they're recopied and you give them to all your friends, it doesn't leave much incentive for someone to do this type of tape. So I know we've put a copyright on the front of this, but I have to depend on you and your honesty to keep these tapes to yourself or not to reproduce them or to show them all your friends free of charge. This is an expensive business, and I hate to say it, but if you give it away, that makes it even more expensive to us, and it kind of takes the fun out of doing it as well. If you like these tapes, we'd like to hear from you. We've got other courses, and we'd like to hear from you if you have suggestions on these. And if you like this kind of thing, I'd be glad to do it. We have to respect each other's integrity here. I'd like to make them. You keep them to yourself, and you make suggestions about what you'd like to see here, and we'd like to be able to do it here at Jeff Newman College. Okay, we'll see you on the next time.